We often hear that we are blessed. Blessed to be born as what society deems as normal. Our brains are working, our bones and muscles are in place. We can speak, laugh, run, or walk. In our island Barbados, many of us go about our days interacting with one another, doing what the average human being does. But on the other hand, we have people born with disabilities. Those who may not be so called as privileged as many of us, normal people. Are they forgotten in our society today? What do you think?
God made everyone in His own image. And He breathed in them and they become a living soul. Even when we look at the body, we see that there are people who have been cerebral palsy, or deaf or dumb, or blind. So we know there are problems with these parts of your body that make you dumb, deaf, and blind. So the disability, in my opinion, comes in when the brain cannot function as it should. And problems happen maybe during your birth or after. And so that child or infant cannot learn the same or develop the same as those without a malfunction. Everyone then, but especially here in Barbados, is saying you're disabled, and it sounds as if you're being condemned. Parents are being condemned for having disabled children. You're not helped. A child is being condemned because he's disabled.
There are many disabilities that exist in the planet. Today, we're going to shed light on a disability that many people have most likely never heard of due to the fact that it's a very rare disability. Welcome to our Brother's Keeper. Meet Robert, a 26-year-old born with a condition by the name of MECP2 duplicating syndrome. What is it? We will be hearing from Robert's dad about this syndrome and how he felt when he found out that his child was suffering from it.
Robert is my son, and he was born on the 1st of September 1990. And we first noticed that something was not right a year into his birth. And we took him to the doctors and stuff, and in Barbados, and they thought it was either autism or cerebral palsy. But then we noticed, as he gets older, we noticed that things were a lot different, and it was kind of devastating to see because they didn't know exactly. They didn't have a full diagnosis for him, and we then went through a lot of therapy with him.
MECP2 duplication syndrome is a condition that occurs almost exclusively in males and is characterized by moderate to severe intellectual disability. Most people with this condition also have weak muscle tone in infancy, feeding difficulties, poor or absent speech, or muscle stiffness. Individuals with MECP2 duplication syndrome have delayed development or motor skills, such as sitting and walking. About half of individuals have seizures, often in the tonic-clonic type. This type of seizure involves a loss of consciousness, muscle rigidity, and convulsions that may not respond to medication. Some affected individuals experience the loss of previously acquired skills. Approximately half of individuals learn to walk, and about 1/3 of people with this condition require assistance when walking. Many individuals with MECP2 duplication syndrome have recurrent respiratory tract infections. These respiratory infections are a major cause of death in affected individuals, with only half surviving past age 25.
When you have a disabled kid, there are a lot of sacrifices that you have to make. And some of them are time. Actually, the main one is time, because you got to spend more time looking after the kid than you do looking after yourself sometimes. It does affect your relationships with your family, because you don't have enough time to go and visit your family members. Sometimes it depends on the condition of the child. You can't even take them with you. Most of your time is dedicated to looking after the kid. Sometimes your family and friends don't come over, because they don't really like to see a kid like that. It makes them sad and stuff like that, so they prefer not to. So your relationships with your friends can suffer as well. It's heartbreaking, but it's a sacrifice that I was happy to make for him. Financially, it can be very devastating. Wealthy people can afford to hire help, can afford to take their children overseas to see specialists if it can't be done in Barbados. But for the middle income person and the low income person, this is very devastating, because half the time, in fact most of the time, the insurance companies will not insure them because they think it's too high a risk, and they know it's expensive to care for these kids. And in the middle and low income bracket, it's difficult because you can't afford the insurance even if you can get it, and it doesn't cover everything anyway. You got to pay for special equipment for the kid. If you have a vehicle, it has to be, and the kid is in a wheelchair, you have to have a wheelchair adapted vehicle. You have to pay specialists, you have to buy medicine, pay for therapy, special diets, hire help. If you want to live stressless, I should say, you need to have some sort of help, and hiring help is extremely expensive. You got hygiene products to be bought, and you have your doctor bills to pay, because with all the stress you get, you're going to get sick, and you're going to have to go to the doctor too, and the list goes on and on. Right now, it costs about 8,000 Canadian dollars to keep my son going per month. The emotional aspects of having a kid like Robert can be tremendous. When you see your child in pain and you don't know where or why, when your child can't eat, it can be emotional. I remember bringing him home from the hospital after he had the peg implanted in his stomach so he could be tube fed. I remember on the way home, we walked home with him in the wheelchair, quite a long walk, but we didn't mind. But we were starving, so we stopped at a small restaurant and got something to eat. I didn't think it would really affect him that much, but Robert loved to eat. And while we were eating, he actually was grabbing for the food. I told him, no, you can't have it, And what made me so sad is he actually started to salivate. You always hear, oh man, that food is so good I salivated, but you never really think that can happen. So much so that I had to wipe off his mouth. You know, sometimes you don't feel you're doing enough for them. You know, sometimes you feel guilty. You know, sometimes, you know, you go to the hospital with him, and just seeing him in the hospital bed, you know, with tubes and stuff sticking out of him, you know, it is very, very stressful. You know, sometimes you ask God why, but we know God had a reason for everything.
As a parent of a child with a disability, there are definitely a lot of sacrifices that have to be made, and it's easier said than done.